how am I going to be able to legitimately talk about the pantyhose question? And all I will say, it's just all part of Meghan's feeling that she was trapped in this environment. But Harry allowed it to happen. He was desperate to get married. He found a woman who actually fell for him hook, line, and sinker. His previous girlfriends, and Duncan, you probably know this, suddenly realized what they were taking on, and it wasn't going to be much fun because he's not the most straightforward individual. But Meghan was in there, hook, line, and absolutely sinkered. And Harry now he got what he wanted. Goes off to Botswana. They're having a great time on safari.
Clearly, something biblical happened in the tent. Otherwise, you're not falling in love on the third date. So,
Well,
congratulations to both of them.
well, well, did the Earth move? It obviously did then. But whatever happened in the Serengeti or wherever they were, great that they fell in love and may have been happy. But unfortunately, Harry hasn't got the wherewithal to control the beast that is Meghan in full flight.
Welcome back, my darlings. Strap in. We need to talk about the calculated, condescending and frankly vile rhetoric being spewed by the so-called royal expert industrial complex. The latest, a clip from Royally Unfiltered where Kinsey Schofield, Rupert Bell and Duncan Larcombe decided to perform an autopsy on Meghan Markle's character, diagnosing her with the fatal case of falling in love. Scoffs, shaking head, lack of media training, desperate, misguided. Let's just unpack the thesaurus of misogyny they're using here, shall we? Because this isn't commentary. This is a script, a tired old script they roll out for any woman who dares to exist outside the lines they've drawn for her. One common refrain from royal experts is that Meghan lacks media training. This phrase is repeated so often, it's become almost a catch-all explanation for any moment when Meghan doesn't fit the royal mould. But what does it actually mean to be media trained in the context of the royal family? Is it about knowing how to answer questions, or is it something deeper? The term sounds technical, but it's really about much more than just skill or preparation. In reality, it's less about communication skills and more about a willingness to play by old, unwritten rules, rules that have governed royal behaviour for generations. These rules value silence, subtlety and conformity over honesty and authenticity. Meghan, who came from a world where direct communication is valued, didn't perform the expected dance of hints, coded smiles and carefully chosen words. She spoke openly, sometimes directly addressing issues others would avoid. Her openness was seen as jarring, even disruptive rather than refreshing or honest. It unsettled those who were used to a more controlled narrative. The idea of training here is really about suppressing individuality to fit a centuries-old mould. It's about learning to blend in, to never stand out too much, and to always put the institution first. In this environment, authenticity becomes a liability, something to be hidden away. Conformity is not just encouraged, it's the ultimate goal. Meghan's so-called lack of training was, in truth, her refusal to hide who she was. She chose to be herself, even when it went against tradition. In an institution built on subsuming the individual for the sake of the collective, that's not just unusual, it's radical. The real criticism isn't about her skills or her ability to handle the media. It's about her refusal to wear the mask that so many before her have accepted without question. Her choice to value her own voice over the quiet whispers of institutional tradition is where the real discomfort for the old guard begins. It's a challenge to the very foundation of how things have always been done. Meghan didn't fail to play the game. She questioned whether the game was worth playing at all and whether the rules themselves needed to change. And that's the story that truly unsettles tradition. The idea that someone could choose authenticity over conformity and, in doing so, force everyone to reconsider the rules of the game. Another persistent narrative paints Meghan as desperately ambitious, as if her every move was calculated to climb the social ladder. This story conveniently erases her vibrant and accomplished life before royalty, as if she only began to exist when she met Prince Harry. Her successful acting career, her years of dedication to humanitarian causes, and her advocacy for women's rights are often ignored or downplayed, replaced instead by the tired caricature of a social climber, someone supposedly scheming for status. This trope strips her of agency, reducing her to a passive figure in her own story, and suggests she is defined only by her marriage, not by her own choices or achievements. Critics are quick to dismiss her accomplishments as nothing more than calculated moves for personal gain or status. Yet, it's a glaring double standard. Successful men are rarely, if ever, accused of marrying for ambition or social advancement. Women, and especially women of colour, are often met with suspicion about their success, as if it must be explained away or justified. Meghan's light, her confidence and presence, was seen as a threat to the established royal order, rather than a valuable addition. But the truth is far simpler and more human. Two people met, connected, and fell in love. One just happened to be a prince, the other a woman with her own story. Reducing their story to mere ambition not only misses the point, it diminishes her individuality and humanity. This narrative serves to make the institution seem magnanimous for allowing her in, as if she should be grateful for acceptance. In reality, these stories reveal more about the biases and intentions of the storytellers than about Meghan herself. It's a story carefully crafted to keep her small and the system large, reinforcing old power structures. But reality is always more complex, layered with nuance, and far richer than the myths we're told. The harshest criticism is that Meghan and Harry, by speaking out, have been disloyal and destructive. The message, your truth and well-being are secondary to the institution's image. This isn't just about royalty, it's a common tactic to shame those who break silence, especially women. Speaking up is reframed as aggression, shifting focus from the issue to the act of complaining. Meghan's openness about her struggles wasn't an attack, it was her lived experience. For an institution built on perfection, admitting human frailty is seen as a threat. The real fear is that her story is true, exposing the inner workings of the system. The relentless attacks serve as a warning to others. Stay silent or face the same fate. Strip away the noise, the headlines, and the endless commentary, and what remains at the core is fear, raw, unspoken, and deeply rooted. It's the fear of change, of becoming irrelevant, and of watching the old ways slowly crumble into dust. Meghan Markle became a living symbol of that change, igniting anxiety and uncertainty within a tradition-bound institution that has always valued sameness over difference. She arrived as a self-made, biracial American woman, fully formed with her own values, ambitions, and a clear sense of self that didn't need royal approval to be valid. Meghan showed the world it's possible to set boundaries, to say no, and to walk away from even the most gilded cages if the personal cost becomes too high to bear. This is terrifying to systems that rely on conformity, obedience, and the quiet acceptance of tradition. Her actions, supported by Harry, suggest that value, identity, and happiness can exist outside the royal cage, and that freedom is possible even for those born into duty. That idea alone challenges the long-held belief that royal duty is the highest calling, the only path to purpose and respect. The backlash isn't really about protocol or tradition, it's about control, about who gets to write the story and who must play their assigned role. The narrative must insist that she's failing because the alternative, that she's thriving, happy and free, is too threatening to those invested in the old order. If she's happy and free, others might start to question their own cages, their own silent compromises, and wonder what life could be beyond the bars. The fury we see is a desperate attempt to restore order, to put the pieces back together. But the genie is out of the bottle now, and no matter how hard they try, it's not going back in. The world has changed, and so has the story. How do we navigate this storm of headlines? Instead of picking sides, let's look beyond the noise and ask, why are these stories being told? Recognize the patterns. When women are labelled difficult or ambitious, would men be described the same way? These words enforce traditional roles and punish those who defy them. Consider the source. Many royal experts depend on the monarchy for relevance. Stories of chaos reinforce the institution's power. Stories of independence do not. Practice empathy. Imagine living under constant scrutiny. Whether fan or critic, remember there's a real person at the centre. This isn't a soap opera, but a human drama about power, identity, and the search for autonomy. Compassion leads to better conversations. So, my darlings, don't be fooled by the fancy titles and the studio lighting. This isn't about Meghan Markle's media strategy. This is about control. They are terrified of the precedent she sets, that you can leave a gilded cage, that you can monetize your own story instead of letting others profit from lies about you, that you can prioritize your mental health and your family over duty to a crumbling institution, that your voice is the most valuable asset you own. They call her every name in the book because they cannot compete with her truth. They cannot compete with the global audience of women and marginalized people who see her not as a princess, but as a parable. So the next time you hear a royal commentator like Rupert or Duncan Larcombe use words like desperate, misguided, or untrained, I want you to hear the real translation. We are terrified of the woman who is no longer afraid of us. They can critique her all they want. But while they're whispering on podcasts, she's building an empire of empathy. And history, my darlings, is never written by the commentators. It's written by the ones brave enough to cause ripples. If you felt seen, if you felt fired up, then do me a favor. Make this viral. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. And remember, your voice is your power. Never let them train you out of using it. See you in the next one.